Hey guys, it's Alexandra from yarncraftsandcoffee.com and EyeLoveKnots.com. Today we're going to go step by step through everything there is to know about how to do half double crochet stitches in rows. This is a beginner friendly tutorial, so we're going to go through everything from picking out our yarn to holding our hook and each step along the way. I'm going to be providing my tips and advice as we go. I'm going to be providing charts of written examples if you're looking at a written pattern. We're going to learn how to do a chain, how to half double crochet into the chain, how to continue in rows, how to count our rows, how to add a border at the end if you choose. If you want to jump ahead in the video, you can use the timestamp section in the description box to jump forward or backward to any section in the video. If you're just looking for a quick refresher on how to half double crochet, check the timestamp for the refresher section, which is going to be right after this introduction. So after I finish this and I go into the refresher, if you are just starting out, please don't be confused. The full tutorial will start right after that. And if you want to jump past the refresher, you can use the timestamp section to do that too. There is a photo tutorial on my website. I'll link that down in the description box below if you'd like to view that. The link to my newsletter is also down there. And if you subscribe to my newsletter, you get access to the free file library on my website where you can download PDFs of the patterns. So before we get started, let's talk about what is a half double crochet. A half double crochet is abbreviated as HDC, and it's a simple crochet stitch. It is beginner friendly. And the process of doing it involves a yarn over before you get started. Then it's a two-step process after this. Inserting into your stitch, yarning over and pulling through, that's step one. Step two is going to be yarning over and pulling through all three of the loops. This stitch is going to produce a stitch that is taller than a single crochet, but shorter than a double crochet. And it's one of my favorite stitch patterns to work because it produces this really beautiful texture that you get from working in the turned rows. So I absolutely love to use this stitch pattern, and I usually tend to go with a solid color so that the texture can really shine. When we're talking about half double crochet, we are talking about US terms. There is also a half double crochet in UK terms, which is a different stitch. When you're looking at a pattern, it should tell you if you're looking at US terms or UK terms. All my patterns are written in US terms, and where the abbreviation section is, it specifies US terms. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So if you're just starting into your chain, you don't count the loop on your hook. 1, 2, 3 chains. In the center of that third chain is where you'll work your first half double crochet. Yarn over, insert your hook into that chain, yarn over and pull through. There are 3 loops on your hook, 1, 2, 3, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Then you continue half double crocheting into each one of those chains all the way across, yarn over, insert your hook into the center of the chain, yarn over and pull through, 3 loops, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. At the end of each row, to start the next one, you're going to start with a chain 1 and turn. Then half double crochet into that very first stitch that your chain is connected to, yarn over, insert your hook into that stitch, picking up both loops of the V shape, yarn over and pull through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And there's your refresher on how to half double crochet. If you'd like to go step by step into more detail, then just continue watching or use the timestamp section in the description box below to jump ahead to any section you'd like to see. For this tutorial, I'm going to be showing the sample using Lion Brand Pound of Love. This is a worsted weight yarn. That means it's a number 4 weight yarn, and when you look at your yarn ball wrapper, it's going to have, in this case, a big ball of yarn. Usually it's a little ball of yarn with a number in the center, and the number means the weight of the yarn. 4 is equal to worsted weight yarn. I'm going to be using my favorite H8 5mm crochet hook along with this yarn. But if you're not sure where to start, you can look at your wrapper and it will tell you here there's going to be one that looks like knitting needles and one that looks like a crochet hook. And it will suggest a hook to start with. So this is a size J10 6mm crochet hook. This yarn is a little bit thicker and the fabric would come out a little bit more relaxed with a better drape if you went with this bigger hook. But I'm most comfortable working with my H8 5mm hook when I'm working in worsted weight yarn, so that's what I'm going to use. Now we're just working a sample to learn how to do the stitch pattern. You can use any weight yarn that you might have in your stash with a respective size crochet hook. And this yarn is also acrylic, so when you're picking out your yarn, you'll want to see what kind of fiber it contains. Some of them will say 100% superwash merino wool. Some of them will say something like 60% wool, 40% acrylic. It might say 100% cotton. So just depending on what you're going to be doing overall, that's what you're going to want to kind of pick a fiber that goes well with whatever you're creating. If you're just getting started and you're not sure what you really want to start with, then I would recommend either an acrylic yarn like this one, a superwash merino wool. That means that it's been treated, so if you start and then pull it all out and restart again, no matter how many times you restart it, the yarn is still going to look nice. Whereas a regular wool could felt up or start pilling. A cotton yarn is also a great option, or any combination of these, something that is acrylic and cotton together, or acrylic and wool together, wool and nylon. Those are all really great places to start. I'm also going to recommend that you start with a lighter shade. So that doesn't mean it has to be like white or cream. If you want to do blue, do a lighter blue. If you want to do purple, do a lighter purple. The lighter the shade, the easier it's going to be to see your stitches. There's also really pretty colorways like this one. They're called variegated colorways. I would stay away from these as well. Just because they're so busy, it is also harder to see different parts of your stitches. And we're going to talk more about different yarns in another video, so once I have that one ready, I'll go ahead and pop the link for it down in the description box below. But if you have any questions about different yarn fibers, please make sure to drop me a comment below so that I can make sure to answer that. One more thing about this yarn that I absolutely love. This big ball is 1,020 yards. You can get so much done with just one ball of yarn. It's incredible. When you're working from your yarn ball, there's two ends. There's going to be one if you insert your finger into the center hole. I'm not sure which side. Sometimes I have to play around with it. But you stick your finger all the way in there, kind of soften it up inside and pull. And with this big yarn, I usually get a big glob of what we call yarn vomit, a big mini ball that comes out. But at the end of that, you're going to have one end. And then if you can't find the end on the outside, you can take the wrapper out to find it. But there's going to be a loose strand on the top. And that's what I'm going to work from. But this is what the end looks like. So you're just looking for the end of the yarn strand. I like to pull from the center. That way my ball doesn't roll around while I'm working. But some people prefer to work from the outside. So it's whatever you prefer. I'm going to be showing you how to work right-handed. That means I'm going to hold the yarn in my left hand as I work and my crochet hook in my right hand. If you are left-handed, my recommendation is still to learn how to do it right-handed. I know it's going to feel really weird at first, but if you're just learning how to crochet, it's going to feel weird anyway. There are a lot more videos and photo tutorials and resources for working with your right hand versus your left, which might be something that you're really interested in later on as you get going. When I learned how to knit continental style, which is holding everything basically the same way as crocheting, and there's been a lot less resources for me over the years. And now trying to go back and learn how to do it a different style is proving to be a little bit more difficult. I do wish that I would have just learned a more popular style back then. So that's my 2 cents about it. There are some programs that if videos are not provided with left hand options, you can pop the link of the video into the website and it will flip the video for you. I have not tried this myself, but I know that I heard the blogger A Crafty Concept talking about it during her Craftmas event. But basically, whatever I'm showing you right-handed, you're going to do the opposite. So if I say go to the right, you're actually going to be going to the left. And your fabric is going to look reversed as well. So if my tail end is on the left, your tail end is going to be on the right. So throughout this tutorial, I'm going to be using terms and phrases that are going to describe working right-handed. If you have any questions about this, please drop me a comment below and I will do my best to answer them. We're going to start with a slip knot. So I've pulled the yarn over my fingers here. I'm going to wrap it around my index finger 2 times. Hold the tension with my thumb and my middle finger. Pull the loop on the left up over the other one but not off my finger. Then I'll pull the one on the left now up over the other one and off my finger. I'm going to grab my crochet hook, insert it into the loop on my finger and pull it off. I'm going to hold the working yarn in my right hand and the short tail end in my left. I'm going to pull on that strand so this loop will go to normal tension. And now we're ready to get in position so that we can start our chain. So this is how I like to hold my yarn. I have the yarn over my fingers so that my fingers can be extended as I'm working. That way I don't get cramps in my hands. But there are so many different ways that you can hold your yarn. The most common way that the books are going to show you how to do it, you're going to have the working yarn laid out here. Take your bottom 3 fingers from your left hand and grab the yarn with them, closing your fingers over the yarn. The index finger swoops around the front and downward to pick up the yarn over your finger. Then take your thumb, bring it upward to the left. And then you're going to take your thumb and your middle finger, and that's where you're going to grab that slip knot with, but the rest of your yarn is closed behind these bottom fingers. And this is what it looks like as you're working. This is what it looks like from the top. And then again underneath I have my bottom 2 fingers holding the yarn strand, and it's wrapped behind and over my index finger. So this is probably the most common way that you'll see how to hold your yarn. And this is how I started out, but my fingers would get cramped in here, my hand would cramp. So I just modified this to work for me. I put my ring finger underneath the strand and then my other fingers surrounding it are over the strand. Bring that all the way to the end here, and I hold the tension between my fingers. Then I still do my index finger the same way. I swoop it down over the front and then pick up the yarn strand over top of it and use my middle finger and my thumb to hold on to the slip knot. So this is what it looks like when I'm working with it. This is what it looks like from the top. And here it is from the bottom. The yarn tension is held here in between my fingers. Another way that I've seen a lot of people do it is you could hold the slip knot here with your ring finger and your thumb and the yarn tension in between your index finger and your middle finger. So just like scissors with your index finger and your middle finger, open them up, grab the yarn strand, then take your ring finger and your thumb to grab the slip knot, and you would have the tension here in between those 2 fingers at the top. So this is what it looks like when you're working with it. This is what it looks like from the top view and from the bottom view. It does not matter how you hold the tension of your yarn. There is really no right way or wrong way. The important thing is that you do hold the tension. You have to hold the tension in your left hand somehow. Otherwise, your stitches are going to come out really inconsistent, really big and loopy. So try one of these 3 ways. See if any of them feel comfortable to you. And then you can adjust it as you go for whatever feels the most comfortable. There's also 2 ways to hold your hook. There is holding it like a knife, which is this way right here that I hold it, with my index finger over the top, my thumb over the bottom, with my hand sort of wrapped around it there. Another way that they say is holding it like a pencil. Same exact way that you would write. That's how you're going to hold it here. So you can experiment with both ways, see what feels the most comfortable to you, and that's how I suggest working, but I always work it holding it like a knife. And that's the nice thing about these ergonomic hooks. This is made out of clay over top of a metal hook. And they make them a lot of different ways, but this way right here where it's smaller, where the thumb rest is on the hook and then it comes out and then it goes back down in size, it's meant so that it fits in your hand naturally as you're holding it. So this works really well for me and it helps my hand not cramp up. If you hold it like a pencil, you might be more interested in the kind of hooks that are more straight, so just like how the hooks originally come, or if you wanted to make them thicker to make them more ergonomic, they just do like a large tube over top of the hook. I'll pop the link to my 2 favorite shops on Etsy down in the description box below where I get my hooks custom made. Now, I like to start by holding on to this knot at the bottom with my thumb and my middle finger so I can keep better tension and so this loop doesn't get too tight to work into. We're going to swoop the hook underneath and behind the strand, that's a yarn over, and then pull it through the loop on our hook. Then I can rotate this and you'll see the first V shape there. Swoop the yarn under and behind the strand to yarn over and pull it through the loop on your hook. Yarn over, pull it through the loop on your hook. Each time you do that, you get one of these V shapes here. We don't count the loop that's on our hook. We have 1, 2, and 3 chains so far. One of the great things about working in half double crochet is that there is no stitch multiple or chain multiple, which means that there's no set number of stitches needed to complete a set of repeats. So you can work as many or as little chains as you like, adding or taking away by any number. However many stitches you chain, you're going to end up with 1 stitch less than that number. So if you start with a chain of 10, then subtract 1 and you'll end up with 9 half double crochets. If you want to have 15 half double crochets, you add 1 to that and you're going to start with a chain of 16. For the sake of this sample, I'm going to go ahead and continue chaining so that I have 11 chains complete. And as I work, I just want to encourage you to try to work loosely as you yarn over and pull through. Try not to make these chains too tight. Do not pull on your yarn tension to make this loop tight. Do not try to tighten up your loops as you go, because it's going to make it much harder to work your next row into. And that's going to be really hard for you to do in the beginning, but we're going to just practice here. So go ahead and do it. Even if it comes out really tight, go ahead and work 11 chains. Not counting the loop that's on our hook here at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. As we look at our chain, one side is going to have these V shapes here. This is going to be the front of the chain, and I'm going to show you how to work into the chain from this direction. If you flip this over, you see the back of the chains have this vertical bump in the middle. You can also work into the back bump, which you might want to do if you don't plan on adding a border to your project and you want it to look a little bit cleaner. But this way is more difficult. Working into the front is much easier. I'm going to show in this tutorial how to work into the front. If you would like to learn how to work into the back bump, please make sure to pop down into the description box below and look for the tutorial there of how to do that. Now that our chain is complete, we're going to half double crochet into the third chain from the hook. We don't count the loop that's on our hook. We have 1, 2, 3 chains using those V shapes there. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to yarn over and insert my hook in the center of that chain. So swoop your hook underneath and behind to yarn over. Then we'll go into the center of this chain, and as I do that, you're going to see that I like to hold the tension here on my hook and turn my chain horizontally to work into. Then yarn over, pull through that stitch. You have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. That's going to complete your very first half double crochet in that third chain. And then the 2 chains that we skipped here in the beginning are going to count as a half double crochet in the final stitch count for the row. We're going to continue to half double crochet into each chain all the way across. So into the center of the next chain, yarn over, insert your hook into the center there, yarn over and pull through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Yarn over, insert your hook into the center of the next chain, yarn over and pull through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Each time we work a half double crochet, if you rotate your fabric upward, you're going to see these V shapes along the top. There's a bottom leg and a top leg, and together they make this sideways V shape here. When you're ready to count your stitches, this is going to be the easiest way to count them. With the fabric laying flat, you will also see these vertical stitches here. Each one of those is also a half double crochet, but it's the easiest to count from the V shapes at the top. So starting with the one that we just finished, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then when we run out of the V shapes along the top, we have the 2 chains that drop off to the side here, and that's going to be number 7. Those are the skipped chains from the beginning. So I have 7 half double crochets here so far. Now we're just going to go ahead and continue working into each of those remaining chains until we get to the end. And once you get there, if you were to count your stitches again, you would see that you have 10 stitches. And now I've reached the last chain. I'm going to work this stitch as normal. You might notice that your loop enlarges and then the stitch itself enlarges. That's because the slip knot is not secured yet. You can hold on to the slip knot in between your fingers, give the small strand a tug, and it'll close that up so it will go back to normal tension. We'll secure that later when we weave in our ends. But with that stitch, row 1 is now complete. Once you've made it to the end of your row, before you proceed, if your stitches were really hard to work into and they were really tight, or they are not even and they're all different sizes and shapes, that's totally fine. What I would recommend at this point is that you remove all your stitches, start your chain again, and then do row 1 again. You'll probably find that the more time that you restart it, your stitches are going to be easier to work into, and your stitches are going to look nicer and a little bit more consistent. So restart as many times as you need to so that you can feel comfortable. To restart, just pull out your crochet hook, hold onto your fabric, give the working yarn a tug, and all of those stitches will come out. This process is called frogging. After we make it all the way across this next row, we're going to be working our last stitch into the top chain of those 2 skipped chains from the beginning. It's a little bit easier if you look back at it now to see exactly where you're going to be working. The first official half double crochet has this big V shape here on the top, and then to the right of it you're going to have 1 chain pushed off to the right and then 1 chain along the bottom. That one that's over there on the right, that is where we're going to work the last stitch of this next row. Let's go back. To begin the next row and all the remaining rows, you're going to do them the same way. You're going to start with a turning chain, and then you'll turn your work over. The turning chain is going to give us the flexibility to turn and restart. It's also going to help us get to the height that we need to match the stitches we're going to work in the next row. The traditional way is going to be to start with a chain 2. So you might be following a half double crochet pattern or tutorial that does a chain 2 and then turn. But for me, a chain 2 always comes out too tall to match the rest of my half double crochet stitches, and then I get a gap in my fabric here. So I always just do a chain 1. So just like we did before when we were creating the chains on the bottom, swoop the yarn under, over, and pull it through to do a chain 1. And then we're going to flip this fabric so that it is mirrored. So just rotate it towards you and flip it all the way over. Now we can work back across. And this beginning chain here is not going to count as a stitch, so you're still going to work a half double crochet into that very first stitch. This is just a turning chain. Now I encourage you to try both ways and see what works best for your tension. If you crochet really tight, maybe a chain 2 is best for you. If you crochet a little bit looser, maybe the chain 1 is better for you. So try them both out, see what works well for you, and then if you're following a tutorial or a pattern where they use a chain 2, but you know a chain 1 works better for you, then just change it out. And the same goes the other way. If it says chain 1 and you know chain 2 is better for you, then you can just change it out. And just continue throughout the pattern that way. And we're going to start with a half double crochet in the very first stitch, which is the stitch that our chain is connected to. So when you're looking at this stitch, you're going to see the vertical part on the bottom that is a small V shape. Then you're going to see a bottom leg above that and a top leg above that. In between that top leg and the bottom leg, you're going to be able to see a hole in there. You're going to push all the way through so that you pick up 2 loops on the top. The V shape that I mentioned for counting, both loops of that you want to pick up on your hook. So we're going to yarn over, then insert right into that stitch, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through all 3 to complete the first half double crochet. The next stitch here, you see the little V shape at the bottom, bottom leg, top leg. We're going into the hole in between, and this bottom leg is actually called the third leg. It's not the bottom leg of this stitch, but I'm just calling it bottom because it's right there on the bottom. We're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the stitch, picking up both loops of the V shape, and then complete our half double crochet. And now we're just going to go ahead and continue to half double crochet into each stitch all the way across to the end. And once we get to the end, we're going to work the last stitch together. Once you work a half double crochet into the last half double crochet, it's going to look like you've finished. We still have 1 stitch left that we're going to work into the top chain. So I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to locate the top chain. Let me pull this out real quick. It's going to be the very next stitch that you can work into. Looking to where you inserted your hook to work your last half double crochet, to the left, you're going to see a leg that swoops over to the end. Then you're going to see a back bump to the right of that. We're going to be inserting our hook into the chain just to the right of that back bump, pushing behind it so that we pick up that back bump and the top leg that's swooping over where they cross. That's what we want to pick up on our hook. So I'm going to go to that back bump, push to the right, and then when I come through, I'll have both loops on my hook where they both cross. So I'm going to yarn over first, find the back bump, insert my hook to the right of it, and then complete my half double crochet. And now row 2 is officially complete with that last stitch. And here in the beginning, this shaping is going to be off a little bit because of this stitch, but as we work more rows, as we put on the border, this is going to straighten itself out. This is the only half double crochet row where you have to worry about working into a chain. All the other rows are going to be worked into half double crochet stitches. So for this next row, row 3, and all the remaining rows of half double crochet, we're going to work them the same exact way as this next row. We're going to start with a chain 1 and turn. Then we're going to half double crochet into this very first stitch that our chain is connected to. And then half double crochet into each stitch along the top there, all the way until you get to the end. And then once we make it to the end, we work the last stitch into the very last half double crochet. And that's it. This is row 3, and this is how you're going to work all the remaining rows. So to start the next one, you'll come here to the end, you'll chain 1, turn your work, then you'll half double crochet into that first stitch and each stitch all the way across the row. As we're looking at our rows, I've flipped back to the end of row 3. I have the beginning tail end here on the bottom left, and my loop to start row 4 is on the top left. Looking at the bottom, you see the chains there along the bottom. Just above that, we see row 1. Row 1 has these vertical stitches here that look a little bit prettier and more defined than the row above it. That means that row 1 is the right side or the front side of the fabric. Row 2 above it looks a little bit different. The bottom of the stitches look like these little V's. The row itself is textured. The stitches are a little less defined. That is the wrong side or the back side of the fabric. And then if we look again above that, now we're looking at the front side or the right side of the fabric, where the stitches are a little bit prettier, they're more defined, they are not raised up like row 2 is. So this is how you're going to look to your fabric when you're looking to count your rows. Right side is 1 row, then the wrong side that's going to be textured is going to be the second row. Your next row is going to be a right side, and then the next row that you work, row 4, will also be textured and raised up like row 2. So when I work in half double crochet, I always count by 2s. I look for that textured row because it catches my eye, so it makes it easy to pull it out, and then I'll count 2, 4, and so on. As you're working along, is it important to finish on the right side or the wrong side when you're working in half double crochet? So we're working in turned rows. That means we're working all the way across, then doing a chain 1 and we're turning and working across again. So the back of our work also looks just like the front of our work. We have a right side here and a wrong side textured row there. When we flip it around, you see that there's a right side there and a wrong side textured row there. So when you're working in turned rows of half double crochet, it does not matter if you finish on the right side of the fabric or the wrong side of the fabric. And again, I know because I just look at row 1, this side is textured and raised up. So I'm looking at the back of row 1 there. My tail end is also on the right side. So if I flip that over, tail end is on the left. Bottom row looks prettier, more defined. So it does not matter which side you finish on. I personally like to finish with the right side facing. That's going to be row 1 down here is the right side and the last row is the right side. I usually add a border to my half double crochet projects, so now when I chain one and turn, I'll work across there, that'll be from the right side, work down the side, and when I work across the bottom, it'll also be from the right side, so it will be opposite the first row and the last row. Again, this is what makes me happy and the look that I like for my projects. It is completely up to you and what you like and how you want to finish your project. So if you are happy with the sides of your work right now, you're happy with the shaping, and you don't want to add a border, you don't have to add a border. You can just fasten off here with a tail end long enough that you can comfortably weave in, pull up on this loop so that the strand will come out, and then weave your end in. But if you'd like to give this a polished look, then I'll show you how you can add a simple single crochet border to your half double crochet projects. I'm doing single crochet for mine, but you can easily change that up to a different stitch pattern if you'd like. I'm going to be doing just one round, but you can add more rounds if you'd like your border to be thicker. I'm also showing this on a blanket that I made, but you could use this on a washcloth, on a scarf, on a placemat, on any half double crochet project that is a flat project, meaning not worked in the round and joined. I am going to be showing how to switch colors first as I'm doing my border here in white. But if you're going to be doing your border in the same color, you can go ahead and use the timestamp section in the description box below to jump ahead. One last thing, if you start doing your border and the stitch count is correct, but your sides are ruffling, this is caused from a change of tension, and it is normal. So you can either block your finished piece at the end to fix that, or you can do your border in a hook size that is one less than whatever the body is. So I used an H8 5mm for the body of my blanket, and then for the border I would go down to a G6 4.25mm crochet hook. I usually do have this problem and I do have to go down a hook size to fix it, but I used Lion Brand Pound of Love for this blanket and I did not have any issues with my border using the same hook size. Let's go ahead and get started. I've finished all my rows and I'm ready to add the border. I'm going to be changing colors to do my border. You can continue in the same color if you'd like, but to change colors I'm going to do so in the last half double crochet. I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull through, so I have the 3 loops on my hook. Now the next step is to yarn over and pull through to complete it, so this is where we're going to switch colors. Set that down for a moment. Grab my new color here, making a loop near the end but leaving a tail end long enough I can comfortably weave in. And I'm going to put this loop onto my hook. That counts as the last yarn over, and then I'm going to pull through to complete the stitch. That's going to complete it in the gray, but now you have the color for the border on your hook. So I'll tighten down my gray here, so this will go to normal tension like the rest. Drop that tail end and the new tail end, pick up the white in my hand, chain 1 and turn. The first part of the border is going to be worked along the top, the same way that you would work if you were just working another row. Now I'm going to be doing single crochet for my border. If you want to continue in half double crochet, you can do that as well. I'm going to work a single crochet into the very first stitch here that my chain is connected to, insert into that stitch. I have 2 loops of the V shape on my hook, yarn over and pull through, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through both loops. Insert my hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through both loops. Insert my hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through both loops. I'm going to pull up on this really quick. I'm coming back here where I've switched and I'm just going to tug on these tail ends to make sure everything is nice and even. And now I'm just going to go ahead and continue working down the row, working single crochets into each stitch, and you'll notice they just look like a smaller half double crochet. They still have the V shape at the top, so if you want to count, you can do that. You'll have the same number of single crochets up here as you did in the body of your blanket. You're going to go ahead and just continue working all the way across until you get to the very last stitch. And once we get there, then we're going to go ahead and work an increase together for the corner. And now I've reached the last stitch of the row. In this stitch, I'm going to work multiple stitches so that this corner will lay flat. And whatever we do in this corner is what we need to make sure we repeat in all of our corners. So I'm going to start by working one single crochet, then I'm going to chain 2 and work another single crochet back into that same exact stitch. Just insert my hook right back in there and complete the second single crochet. And you can change this up. If you want to do something so that you get a more rounded corner, then you would do single crochet, chain 1 single crochet, or you could do 3 single crochets. I have a more square corner here. An alternative to this is going to be single crochet, half double crochet, single crochet. Completely up to you how you want to do it. I'm going to do all mine this way: single crochet, chain 2 single crochet. Before I continue working down the side, I'm going to pull up a loop here so I don't lose this. I'm going to come back to my beginning tail. I need to fasten off that gray. And I want to go to the bottom. It's important that I show you row 1 is the right side of my fabric. That's the pretty side of my fabric. Row 2 is going to be the more textured, raised up. The stitches are a little less defined. That is row 2 right above it. So row 1 is at the bottom for me. My beginning tail end is on the left side. If you're currently looking at row 1 as the wrong side and your tail end is coming out on the right side, then as we work down this next side, your stitches are going to look a little bit different, and you may want to use the timestamp section to jump ahead for the instructions that I'm going to share for going up the next side. Just because depending on the side that you're working on, you're either going to look exactly like mine, or your row is going to be opposite to mine and you're looking at the back side. The stitches look very similar on both sides, but it is just a little bit different. As you're working into the side of half double crochet, the rule is for every 2 rows, you're going to work 3 stitches. So let's look down here where I have this wrong side and this right side. Where the right side is, at the end of that, you can clearly see the stitch. Then, going up to where the wrong side row is, you're going to see a hole up there at the top. Those are going to be the 2 easiest stitches to pull out. Then you know that you need to work 1 stitch in the center of those. Looking down here, you have the hole at the top. You have the stitch that's very easy to see here at the bottom. And now you have a spot in the middle where you need to work a 3rd stitch. The other thing is, when you're working into a hole, you're going to insert right into the center of the hole. There's going to be 2 loops on your hook here, but it's going to be very difficult to see. When you're working into the stitch, you want to work into the side edge of it. Don't insert your hook in the space in between those 2 half double crochets, because then you're going to get a lacy edging. You want to insert into the center of that last stitch, breaking it in half. And when you do that, you're going to have 2 loops there on your hook that are going to be much easier to see. The same V shape that you would see when you're working into a stitch as normal. When you're working into the center of those, you may at times just get one loop on your hook, or you may get into a spot here where it's a little bit more secure, where those two legs cross each other. In the center, it's okay if you can only pick up one loop, but on the other one, try your best to pick up both loops so that you have more security on your stitch. Otherwise, the edge is going to pull on those stitches and you're going to get a lacy detail on the side as well. So here where I've just worked my corner is the stitch that I was calling the hole. Then I have the stitch in the middle and then the half double crochet on the end. When I insert into this next stitch, I'm going to go into the very next stitch that I can work into. It looks like a hole as well. You can see the bottom leg underneath it and the top leg swoops around there. I'm going to go right into the center there. And then I'm going to complete my single crochet. Now I'm going to go into the side edge of that last stitch, breaking it in half, and then picking up 2 loops of the V shape. Then we start again into the hole that is very easy to see, single crochet, into the very next stitch, which is a hole that's a little bit harder to see, but you can see the bottom leg and the top leg there, right in the center of those. And then into the side edge of the next half double crochet, breaking it in half, pushing through so I get 2 loops on my hook. And that's how we're going to continue working all the way down. And when you work up the next side, you're going to follow a very similar manner, though the stitches may look a little bit different. Just a reminder here, as you're working, try to work as close to the side edge as possible, not in between the stitches. And if you get lost while you're working, try counting as you go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. It will help you keep track as you're going along so that you don't add or take away stitches in that set of 3. Go ahead and continue all the way down the row, and once we get to the end, we'll finish the row together and then we'll increase in the last stitch. I've made it down to the end. I have 2 rows left, so that is going to be those 3 stitches there. And then there's going to be 1 stitch in the corner, which is actually the first chain that your slip knot is connected to. And that chain is where we'll increase. So I'm going to continue to single crochet into these next 3 stitches. And then in this next stitch here, in the first chain that's in the corner, I'm going to work my next corner increase. Same as I did before, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. So if you decided to do something else in the last corner, just repeat that here. I'm going to rotate this. I'm going to tighten up this stitch. You can see that mine is opening because the slip knot's not secured yet, so I'm just going to hold on to the slip knot in between my fingers, give the strand of yarn a tug to close that up. I'm going to hold it to the back just so I can crochet 1 stitch over it, and then I'm going to drop it and I'll weave it in later. So when we're working along this side, we're working into the opposite side of the foundation chain, and it's going to be worked the same way as you did row 1. So we're going to insert our hook right into the center of the next chain. In this case, I also have the tail end on my hook, and I'm going to complete a single crochet. Tighten that up and drop it. And I'm going to continue to single crochet into the center of each chain all the way across until I get to the next corner. Once you reach the other side, I have one more stitch left here in the second to last stitch. That one's really easy to see. The one on the end, it's going to curve over. And here is where we're going to work into the corner chain. So let me work this next stitch. You're going to see that the very next stitch is a chain, and then directly underneath that is another chain. So those are from the beginning where we worked into the third chain. These are the two that we skipped. We're going to be working into the very next chain. That's going to be our corner. I'm going to insert right into the center of this chain, pushing towards the bottom so that I can pick up the leg from the chain I'm working into and the leg from the chain underneath it. Right where they cross, that's where I'm going to insert my hook, and that will give me two legs on my hook to give me a nice secure stitch. And then I'll complete my single crochet as normal, chain 2, same as I did with my other corners. And I'm going to go ahead and work the next single crochet of the corner back in that same exact stitch. It's much easier to see the stitch now. Looks like a hole. And that's our third corner complete. Now you'll rotate your fabric so you can work up the last side. As we're working up the next side, we're going to do it in a similar manner. Our stitches are going to look a little bit different. I'm going to skip these first 2 rows here and block off the next 2 rows. Where my right hand thumb is, you're going to see a large hole right here. If you follow that up, there is one leg that swoops over the top. This is not where we're going to work. Our first stitch is going to be to the left of that. It is a chain, and it is right next to the first half double crochet of that row. We would insert our hook right in the center of the chain. You have the bottom leg here on the bottom, and then another leg here on the top. So inserting right into the center, you can see that hole. When you do that, you're going to have one leg over here underneath, and it crosses with that other leg behind it. So this is a nice secured stitch. That's going to be number 1. Number 3 is the stitch that looks like a V shape right in the center of it, breaking that stitch in half but still picking up 2 loops of the V shape. So we have number 1 as that chain, number 3 as the V shape, and in the center of those is what looks like a hole. When you insert your hook into that hole, you're still going to have 2 loops there. They're a little bit tighter, but that's going to be stitch number 2. Going back here to where we just finished our corner, the stitch that we worked our corner in is the first stitch for this set of 2 rows. Then I have the one here in the middle that looks like a hole, and the one next to it that is the V shape that I'll insert right into the center of that V shape. And those 2 stitches plus our corner completes the first 2 rows. So I'm going to work into that next stitch, single crochet as normal, right into the center of the V shape, 2 loops on my hook. The next stitch, we are not working into that next loop that we see that is above the hole in between the rows. We're going to go to the stitch that's to the left of it that looks like a chain, inserting right into the center of the chain. then into the center stitch here, and then into the V shape. Not into the next loop, but into the next stitch that looks like a chain, right in the center, then into the middle stitch, and then into the V shape. Not the next loop that's above the hole, but into the chain that is next to it, into the middle stitch here, and then into the V shape. And you're just going to go ahead and continue working in this manner all the way up until you're back to the beginning. Now I've made it back to the beginning. I have the first 2 rows here, so I'm going to work the first stitch as normal, the second stitch as normal. I'm having to pull my tail end out of the way so that I can see the stitch. I'm going to push that gray to the back so I can make sure it's on the back side when I'm ready to join. And now we just need to complete the corner increase here. So the same place where we've worked our first single crochet of the round, that's where we're going to insert our hook. Single crochet, chain 1 only, because the slip stitch is going to count as the second stitch. I'm going to rotate this a little so it's easier for me. Then I'm going to insert into the first stitch, picking up both loops of that stitch, yarn over, pull through that stitch and through the loop that's on my hook. That's a slip stitch join, and now the border is complete. I'm just going to do 1 round on my border. If you wanted to continue adding rounds to your border, you absolutely could do that. It doesn't have to be in single crochet. You can change it up to whatever you want. But if I was going to continue in single crochet, then I would chain 1, work 1 single crochet into that very first stitch and all the way across the row. Once you get to the other side and you work your last stitch into that first single crochet of the corner, then you're going to go into that chain space of the corner, and that's where you'll work your next corner. Single crochet, chain 2 single crochet, or whatever you want to do. Then you work a single crochet into that next single crochet of the corner and into each stitch all the way down. And that's how you would continue all the way around. In this corner here at the end, you would insert into the chain space still, single crochet, chain 2 single crochet, and then slip stitch join to the first single crochet of the round. And you can continue adding as many rounds to the border as you'd like. Again, you can experiment with different stitch patterns if you want to do that, but I'm going to stop here after this first round. I'm going to come back to my yarn here. I'm going to fasten off with a tail end long enough I can comfortably weave in. Pull up on this loop to break it. And I like to bring the tail end to the back, so I'm going to use my hook to insert from the back to the front into the same stitch I slip stitched to. Yarn over with the tail end and bring it to the back. And now it's on the same side as the other tail ends, so I'm ready to go ahead and weave in my ends. I'm going to thread this gray into my tapestry needle. That's where I fastened off at the end of the body. I like to work 3 passes, that's my magic number. If you feel comfortable after 2, you can fasten off. If you feel like you need to work a 4th one, you can do that as well. I don't pick up the whole stitch on my needle when I enter and exit. Instead, I insert into the center of that stitch to break it in half, and that's just going to help to capture my yarn a little bit better. So I'm going to insert here into a nearby stitch, breaking it in half, And I'm going to run vertically, trying to keep as close to the side edge here as possible. That's going to hide the bulkiness a bit better. Breaking that last stitch down here when I exit. Hold on to the fabric in between my fingers and pull the needle through. That's going to help prevent some of the bunching. And then once I get it all the way through, use my fingers to manipulate the fabric if I need to, if it has bunched up. I want it to lay naturally. Inserting here into a nearby stitch, breaking it in half, back up through several of those same stitches I just finished, and break my last stitch in half when I exit. Hold on to the fabric in between my fingers, pull the needle through, give it a tug, use my fingers to manipulate the fabric if I need to. As pass number 2, insert into a nearby stitch here, breaking it in half, run back through several of those same stitches and break the last stitch in half when I exit. And then I can fasten off. I'll do the same thing with the white that is currently going downward right there into the white stitches of the border. The other one I'm going to go horizontally, and as I work horizontally I just want to make sure that I am manipulating that fabric so it's not bunching up. It's much easier to bunch up your horizontal stitches. I have some tail ends here in the center where I had a knot and I had to fasten off and reattach my yarn. So I'm going to just follow the direction they fall in. This one on the bottom, I'll do it downward into those stitches there. Again, working vertically to hide it the best and prohibit it from bunching up. And the one on the top, I'll just follow it upward into some of those stitches there. And then we have one more stitch down here at the bottom where we did our slip stitch. And I'm going to do that the same way, just working upward here. And that's it. Now we've gone step by step through everything there is to know about working half double crochets in turned rows. If you have any questions about anything that I went over, please make sure to drop me a comment below and I will be sure to answer that for you. If you found this helpful, I would appreciate it if you would smash that like button to let YouTube know that you did. It helps my channel out a ton when you do that. Check out the description box for links to projects that use half double crochet stitches. The link to my website is down there where you can find free crochet patterns. The link to my newsletter is also down there, and if you subscribe to my newsletter, you have access to the free file library on my website where you can download PDFs of the patterns. I'll catch you guys next time.